All right, welcome to the September OWASP SAMM community call. So my name is Sebastian Leerseder from the SAMM team. As usual, with these community calls, where you're more than welcome to join any of the upcoming calls, we do a little bit of an update on the project, which in this case, we'll do an update on upcoming SAMM events. And also we have what Pat started out as a point of view of handling dependency management, which Aram is going to share his insights on. So very shortly, we have some upcoming events. So we have, as part of the global AppSec conference in Washington, D.C., which is beginning of November, we'll have a SAMM User Day. And we'll also be joining the Uruguay OWASP Day in Montevideo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Pat, where Adam is actually going to go down to the south and entertain people there with OWASP SAMM training. I think Nariman is also going to join, Adam, if I'm not mistaken. If not, please correct me.
Normally,
so
yes.
that's yes, so there you go. And then so in the beginning of November, as part of the Washington conference. So the conference is on Thursday and Friday, November 6th and 7th. And before that, there's the trainings. But on Wednesday, so it's actually I would say in the lineup as a training day. It's a user day. It's for people who are using or planning to use OWASP SAMM, the possibility to meet the team, to talk about SAMM, to share experiences, but also to listen to other people who have been using SAMM in the past. This year's a little bit of a special one. We're organizing this together with Timo Pagel, who started also a similar kind of project, which is called DSAMM, DevSecOps Maturity Model, which resembles a software assurance maturity model a little bit, but there is definitely some complementarity to it. And I would say if you're interested in DSAMM, obviously you're also more than welcome. So we'll be organizing that day together. We're working on the lineup, so we have a couple of really good, interesting talks and speakers in the pipeline, but it's not ready, I would say, for prime time. So keep an eye on our communication channels in the next couple of days or weeks. We'll be sharing more details. Before that, I would say, if you are in the possibility to join us in the US for that SAMM User Day, make sure to already book and block your Wednesday, November 5th, and also register for that as part of the conference registration. So it's a separate registration. If I'm not mistaken, it's $250 US or something around that. And make sure to join us there. So looking forward to welcome you there. I'm going to be there. Adam's going to be there. Nariman also, so he's going to collect a lot of air miles. We have a couple of links that we can share. We'll also share them in the chat later on. There's a call for presentations, so there's still room for a couple of slots. So if you want to share your own SAMM experience, and it can be a war story of how it got terribly wrong or terribly bad, but also obviously your success stories, please share them with us. Also link to register, and we have a landing page on the OWASP SAMM website. Then later on, November 19th, so it's only a couple of weeks later, Aram and Nariman are going to take the plane towards the winter in Uruguay. Oh no, summer. Yes, indeed. So it's
late spring.
It's late spring. Montevideo in Uruguay.
Yeah.
Yes, like you said. So there's a SAMM training which is going to be organized there, also together with Uruguay OWASP Day. So is going to be really exciting. So if you are there, if you're listening to this or seeing this, definitely make sure to book your day and to join Nariman Aram, but also a lot of people in Uruguay on this particular topic. So that's really the update from the project. The the next topic is, and some what we do about, I would say, every month is we do a little bit of a deep dive on a topic, obviously related to OWASP SAMM. Sometimes it's a security practice within SAMM. Sometimes we do record a little bit of a podcast on a topic related to SAMM. But this time it's a point of view on handling dependency management. It's Aram who is going to help us out there. And I'm going to give the word to Aram, and I'll stop sharing. And Aram, you can start sharing your screen.
Yes, thank you, Seba. I'm going to share my screen. I'm sharing my screen and everybody can see my screen. Great.
Yes.
So the reason for this experience sharing is twofold. Wait, I still need to do my... yeah. So the reason for this experience sharing is twofold. First of all, we didn't have any specific topic lined up for today. Normally our agenda is full. So I came up with a suggestion to do an experience, show how we do this stream, how we have implemented this stream. And at the end, so you have to pay attention now, because at the end I have a question to everyone here to assess our SAMM score for this one. So you will have to come up with a score based on what you hear. And the second reason is, of course, often I hear the question, okay, so how do we do this? What does it mean? SAMM is very generic, which is great. It fits in any context. But that also means that you will need some interpretation based on your realities, based on what you get, what every organization is doing. And I've picked this stream. It's actually an easy stream, but to be honest, I haven't seen many teams, many companies out there doing the right things, I would say. And I'm not saying that we are doing the right thing, so I'm going to leave that assessment to you guys. But let's go and see. You see what I got, because I know what I got. So first of all, dependency management is focused on third-party dependencies in your source code. So anything that you pull in with NPM, Composer, Maven, or whatever package manager that you have. And this is about making sure that your supply chain is secure, so that you don't get any vulnerabilities from your supply chain, making sure that you have control of your supply chain. And it is also about making sure that you don't pull in a ton of dependencies that you might end up not needing or that are unused. So it is literally about having a full control over your third-party dependencies. And then SAMM has 3 maturity levels. I'm not going to show you the exact full definitions of SAMM. This is like sort of rephrased and made a bit more simple to follow. The first level is about knowing which dependencies you have. And by the way, this is going to be mandatory under the Cyber Resilience Act. So you need to have an SBOM in place. You need to know what dependencies you have. And then once in a while, look at those dependencies manually, but maybe with a tooling, and see what's going on. Again, I'm simplifying things. It's a bit more than just that. Now, and by the way, many companies have sort of level 1, are doing level 1, because tooling nowadays is pretty good, and it just does that for them. But then, more importantly, dependencies require a process, a formal process. You need to have a formal process to manage those dependencies. And I'm going to talk about that more later. And then the last level, the highest level, is to handle the third-party code as if it is yours, as if it is your own code. Keep in mind that SAMM question of this level says prevent the build on critical and high vulnerabilities. I tend to, well, it's not that I disagree with this question, because it's part of the model, but the question is a little bit misleading, because once you zoom in into the quality criteria behind level 3, you're going to be surprised what you see there. So I'm going to now show you not all of the quality criteria, because then I'm going to lose all of you. I'm going to show you the quality criteria that are often missed. By the way, if you have a question, please ask me later. But basically, level 1 is very simplified. You know what dependencies you have. You have an SBOM, and typically people tell me, yes, we know what dependency we have in a composer JSON or in a .log file. It's typically one file where all dependencies are summed. But then for level 2 and 3, the key quality criteria which are often missed are having an approved list of dependencies. I haven't seen this in my experience. And then having a formal process to approve those dependencies for level 2. For level 3, breaking the build if dependency is not on the list. So we're not talking about the vulnerability on high and critical vulnerability. You're going to break your build if the dependency is not known. It's not on a specially dedicated list. And then, and this is probably even harder, scanning dependency source code with your SaaS tooling. You might disagree with this. I'm sort of a little bit disagreeing with this. Why would I scan all my dependencies with a SaaS tooling? But then again, you don't have to reach level 3. I'm not saying that you should be at level 3, but I'm pretty much saying that you should be at level 2 or try to get to level 2, by the way. So let's move on. These are the key quality criteria, like I said, often missed. And then let's look at some myths. And by myths, I mean people who think they are doing a good job, but in fact, they're not doing anything or not doing good enough job. By the way, I'm not trying to offend anyone. So these are things where often I'm involved in many SAMM assessments, and then teams are somehow, or teams claim or expect to be at a certain maturity level, and they are at a lower maturity level because often these kind of things happen. Now, often teams are over-relying on their tools. Tool is important. I'm going to come back to that. But then teams believe that if they have a tooling that flags the vulnerabilities, that's enough. I've even sometimes faced teams that say, we are not even fixing those. We might fix them or not, although most of the teams have SLAs in place for fixing critical, high, medium, low within certain time frame. But again, just having the tool is not giving you any SAMM scores, by the way. Maybe it gives you level 1. Having a license review process with the legal team, and typically now the legal teams are typically focusing on your licensing and then the GPL story. They want to make sure that strong copyleft doesn't end up compromising the integrity of your SaaS solution or any solution that your corporate might have. This is super important at the corporate level. It doesn't necessarily deal with security. Actually, it doesn't deal with security at all. It is a process. It does go through a review, but then again, your tooling is going to pull out what is the licensing type, and then it's not really what SAMM is looking for. You do get some credit for this. You should have this in place, but this is not enough. And then finally, I've also often hear that the process is that the team is looking at the dependencies during peer reviews, and then they sort of eyeball things. This is, again, not enough to get you scores for having a formal process in place. So I'm going to show you what we have in place at Codific, and then you are free to tell me if this is good enough or not good enough. Now I'm thinking about, because I cannot see you, I just can't see Seba for some reason. I'm thinking about my fellow SAMM core team members, or maybe people who are familiar with the details of SAMMable. You can tell me at the end if this is level 2 or level 3 or level 1. Now, the secret recipe is known to everyone. It's people, processes, and tools in sort of this order. We have a formal process to review all dependencies, and to do that review, we need the people. The process is completely integrated in the SDLC. It's not a document out there. I often, when I do assessments, I often get a document presented as, hey, this is our process. But then actually what is more important is how did you make sure that this process is fully integrated and everyone is aware of this and executing it. So, and then that's where your tools can help. So your tools can sort of make sure that the whole process is completely integrated in your SDLC. And then your people are following that process. And if they are not, your tooling is going to break things or flag things. So before I show you that, well, as part of that, so all features, all code requests, sorry, all feature requests, everything ends up in that comes in our Jira, ends up in a merge request. And the merge request has a formal or maybe semi-formal, I still cannot place a good definition of what a formal is, what semi-formal is. So I call it a semi-formal peer review, which includes a dependency check. So it's a code quality check. There are some additional checks that people need to look at. And then they have to look at dependencies. Let me show you how that looks like with very quick 3 screens. So this is the screen. You don't have to be able to read this. This is a screen of our Jira. We don't use Jira, we use something else, but it's pretty much the same story. So here are all issues that have to be peer reviewed. Once the issues end up here, someone else, someone who is not working on it, needs to go and review it. And that's it. That is what this is the review screen. There are different ways to review. This is the easiest for me to show. So this is the review request, the merge request. And then as a reviewer, I can approve this, but clearly I have to look at the code. And these are the changes in the code, so I can look at the code. We do have a separate document that we regularly revisit during internal presentations where we agree on, okay, what do we need to look at during this review process? So it's not like, hey, just look at this and make sure it's okay. There are corporate guidelines, there are things to look at. And most important, and that is the core of this experience sharing, is the dependency process, the dependency review process. In this case, there are no added dependencies. So this is probably a bad example, but I couldn't figure out one. I couldn't find one. But basically, once the merge request is once it's reviewed, I can now say, okay, I approve it and I merge it, or I push it back. I'm going to go back to my presentation now. I hope this is more or less clear. And then the process for reviewing dependencies is as follows. First of all, dev dependencies. So dev dependencies are dependencies which don't really end up in being executed in production. They are development dependencies. I'm not going to explain you what it is, because I didn't really prepare for that. But these are sort of dependencies which never end up in production. You don't really have to care about vulnerabilities there. Again, I'm simplifying a bit. You maybe want to care, but not too much. They are exempt, but then we do have internally the agreement that you should use common sense for this. Don't do crazy things for dev dependencies. And we also have trusted vendors. So we have vendors like Google, Amazon that we're going to trust, which means that any dependency coming from them does not need a peer review. Does not need an approval for the dependency. Then we have a fast review and a full review. The fast review, it says if a dependency has 25 dependent packages and it has a release in the past 12 months, then we're going to approve it. You might disagree with this. And yes, this is a proxy for the quality of that dependency, by the way. You might disagree with this, but this seemed like a very quick test that we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Is it good or bad? I don't know. We're going to revisit that in next year and see if we added some dependency which ended up being bad. To be a bad decision. I'm happy to hear other thoughts. Dependent packages means that there are a lot of other packages that depend on this. So if something goes wrong in this package, it's going to be flagged pretty fast. And then release in the 12 months means it's actually being maintained. If it passes fast review, great. If it doesn't pass the fast review, we need 2 people looking at it who will dive deeper into things like, okay, do we really, really trust this dependency? Where we're going to use things like how many contributors are on it? What is it about? If you have a math library, a mathematical library who calculates pi, I'm giving an example, it hasn't had a release in the past 12 months because, hey, calculation of pi didn't really change. Mathematical stuff doesn't change that often, so it's okay. That sort of example is for when we do the full review, and then we're going to say, okay, this is why we're going to allow this. And then we're going to add this dependency. And once it passes, it's going to be added to the list. And yeah, we do have common sense and maybe using AI to get some more advice. honestly, we haven't had a dependency where we are like, okay, nobody really trusts this, but then we cannot really drop it because we really, really need it. We never ended up in that situation. Once we do, well, I'm going to share with you what we did. And then, so there is an actual list. I'm going to show you the list in a little bit. Well, let me show you the list. So we have an actual list. This is a screenshot for the slides, which we are going to share, but I'm going to show you the actual list, which is here. It's an Excel spreadsheet. You are probably surprised. You didn't expect that, but still. It's an Excel spreadsheet. There are not too many dependencies, by the way. This is Symfony PHP in terms of technology. So we have such a list for every technology. We have also Tailwind UI components, which is a sort of JavaScript. But then what is important here is we have these statistics, dependent packages, latest release. And then we also have who approved it, the fast and slow procedure. And more importantly, dependencies that have been approved using the full procedure. Some of them we have decided to lock to a specific version. So anything that is not locked to a version can be updated. And actually, we do have a process in place to require dependency updates regularly. But some others, we say, okay, look, this library, for instance, is an actual example. I didn't like it. There are not too many dependent packages. Doesn't seem to have many contributors, not too many stars. It is recommended by by one of our trusted vendors. I'm going to tell you more about that. So we said, look, let's look at the code. It was not too big of a code. We actually eyeballed the code of the dependency and then say, okay, we're going to lock it to this version. Nobody touches this dependency, cannot update, because if somebody starts messing around with this library, it is possible that somebody might insert something malicious. So this is why we lock it to a specific version. And then this is the list of the dependencies as a spreadsheet. Initially, the developers had to look at this list manually. And then if the dependency is not there, say, okay, it needs to be added. Like I said, we also have trusted component vendors. So these are the vendors that we actually trust. So anything coming from these people, this is the names of the vendor in the dependency specification itself. This is all going to be trusted automatically. I wanted to say something else, but I forgot. Yeah, okay, let's go back to the presentation. I will remember it later. Yeah, like I said, some trusted vendors. And then, yeah, so now the tools come in. So we have actually added additional scripting to our CI/CD because spreadsheet is nice, but it's not too cool because you have to go and look at it. And there can always be mistakes when you have human process in place, although we are all pretty strict about it. So we said, hey, let's add some tooling that will, when we run the build, it will actually use that spreadsheet, pull it in, and see if your dependency is on that list. So now our dependency, the list of the dependencies is enforced. So if I add a dependency which is not on that list and doesn't belong to the trusted component, the build is going to break. And by the way, I'm aware of only one tool that can allow you to build such a list. I'm not aware of any other dependency management tool that natively supports this. So if you want to work with a tool that can help you with that, not spreadsheet, Stoos is the only tool that does that. And then, to the best of my knowledge, and it's a great thing because it allows you to govern your dependencies, to add that process into the rest of your tooling. Everybody loves the toolings, loves the SCA tooling, because they can find vulnerabilities. I haven't said anything about it, but clearly we also have a tool which will scan for vulnerable dependencies. If one of those dependencies becomes vulnerable, it might break the build. But that's the easy part that everybody does. I wanted to share mainly the hard part, which is the formal process and how you enforce the dependency list. I think that's it. At this moment, we have to, well, my question to the audience here and whoever is watching online is, what score would you give us? Write it in the comments under the video. I will give the word back to Seba to say what else there is, because this is the end of my experience report. Thank you.
So let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So Adam, thank you very much for sharing your experiences with that dependency checking practice. So we have a couple of I would say communication channels. Obviously, feel free to join us on Slack if you haven't done so. If you want to be notified about upcoming community calls or anything else that we do online, make sure to join the meetup group. We have, obviously, you're looking at these recordings on YouTube, so make sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell to get updates on any next recordings. And then we do have a newsletter from time to time. We send updates. So this is a zero spam newsletter. It's only focused on keeping you up to date on anything related to OWASP SAMM. So thank you very much for joining, but also looking at the recording of this community call and looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.